Okay, well, I haven't done a sermon like this in a few years now, um, but I just really wanted to bring this sermon in the series to us. And just being aware, this is the first one in the series, and we're really trying to set up a few things, but we weren't able to record on Sunday, and so this is my attempt to bring you the sermon in a different way, and I hope it's still a blessing for you. I think it's worth praying before we start, so let's do that. God, as I share in this space, would your words be my words? Would your love for us ring really true through this passage? Give us peace where there's difficulties. Give us courage where we need to follow your voice. Amen. Well, it's a new book as we, in a new series as we wander into the Old Testament again. I'm really excited to bring you this series in Hosea. And as you may already be thinking, there's a real question on why we would look at Hosea. There's a lot of books in the Bible that we could pick to read. And why pick this one? I suspect there's quite not very many churches at all in the past decade who have given an entire series to Hosea over the past decade. Why this book? Which I think then leads us to an even bigger question of why do we even read this book that we call the Bible at all? It should not be lost on us that we are about to read a letter written to a group of Hebrew slaves caught in a foreign land in exile nearly 2,800 years ago. And the books that come before aren't that much different in their cultural context. Why would we even read any of the Bible, let alone this book? And I think it's a fair question to ask. And I suspect, like me, you found the answer in this person of Jesus, who at some point you've heard his teachings and become convinced that he has something to offer you and he has wisdom for how to navigate this life. I suspect, like me, too, you have found him and his claims to be the Son of God to be true. And therefore, what you're trying to do is base your life off his teachings. And a part of what we want to do out of that is look more and more like Jesus. And to look like Jesus, one of the key ways we can do that is we can begin to understand the way he saw the world. And to do that, we read the scriptures that he read. These are the books that taught him how to navigate the world. And if we want to look like him, it's right that we do our utmost to learn the things that he learned. Second to that, our culture has a lot to say about what love is. Any casual subscription to any streaming service is going to start filling up over the next few weeks with Hallmark Christmas movies. Each of these is going to try and put forward a different perspective on what love looks like, what love feels like, how people who are in love act towards each other. And I hate to spoil these, but if you've never seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, essentially what happens is one person generally moves from the big city to the small town, and there's two people who are very different, and fate causes them to have to work together over a small period of time in which feelings begin to develop, and maybe there's frustrations over their quirks of their personalities. And then over time, there's a series of events and a moment when they realize that they need to act on this spark that they begin to feel between the two of them. But then, alas, there's a big plot conflict where, previous sinister motives are uncovered and it all falls apart for a moment. But then there's an act of often like extraordinary embarrassment or something to do with like rain or snow and a big display of love that wins over the affections of the other, and then you insert any sort of Christmassy carol that you like, they embrace and fade to black, and there's your movie. Hosea is going to try and teach us something very different about love. As we're about to read, Hosea will open with God calling him to marry someone who has possibly proven to be unfaithful in the past, but certainly will be in the future. These are called sign acts, and God is going to teach Hosea about himself through it, in that the rejection and the humiliation and the heartache that Hosea will feel will help him understand God's feelings of rejection, humiliation, and heartache with his people. See, sin and the effects of sin on God's heart are just on full display in this book. And above all of this book is going to try and wrestle with the question of what does a God do, a God who is full of desperate love for his people, but is also passionate about justice in his world. How is he going to act when his people continually refuse to live by his commands and refuse to come under his rule? And that's the heart of Hosea, and it begins in chapter 1 with this. The word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beeri, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, the kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Jehosh, king of Israel. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go and marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord." So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Then the Lord said to Hosea, "Call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. And in that day I will break Israel's bow in the valley of Jezreel." Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. And the Lord said to Hosea, "Call him Lo Ruhamah, which means not loved. For I will no longer show love to Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Yet I will show love to Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses and horsemen, but I, the Lord their God, will save them." After he had weaned Lo Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. And the Lord said, "Call him Lo-Ami, which means not my people. For you are not my people, and I am not your God. And yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. And in the place where it was said to them, 'You are not my people,' they will be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel will come together, and they will appoint one leader, and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel." So, chapter 2, "Say of your brothers, my people, and of your sisters, my loved one." There's lots to unpack, and we'll do our best here as we did on Sunday. But I think it's worth us just naming and starting to wrestle with God calling his servant to marry someone who's going to be unfaithful to him. What are we supposed to do with that? Here's the really uncomfortable truth that sits just behind it. This shouldn't be that surprising when we look at how the other prophets were acting in that time and what God had called them to do. Ezekiel, one of the other major prophets of that time, was told to lay on his side for 390 days and then to roll over onto his right side and lie a further 40 days on that arm. And in that time, this act would have atrophied the muscles in his arm, possibly to a permanent degree. And then what he's called to do is take his arm and bear it before the people of Israel and step out to preach against them and say that this, as a warning, is what is going to come for them. Jeremiah is told to go and preach to the nation of Israel, but is told very clearly that it doesn't matter what he says, they're not going to listen to him. And then beyond that, we even can consider the prophet Nathan, who confronts King David, and he doesn't know that King David is going to take this well. David has just slept with a woman that's not his wife and made her pregnant. He's trying to cover it up, and yet her husband has just the most integrity in the world. And so David then turns and finds a way to get rid of him, and he has him killed in battle. And now Nathan goes to speak against the king for what he has done. And he doesn't know if he's going to walk out of the room, because last time David just covered it up. Finally, years later, we see Jesus, the ultimate prophet. We see him head to the cross. after wrestling in the garden and saying, God, is there any other way that we can do this? And God says, no. We have this notion that we like to believe that God is just calling me to do nice things, that God just wants the best for me, and the best for me means that my life needs to track in a certain direction, that there needs to be an element of comfort and security there. But the prophets of the Old Testament and Jesus himself are trying to show us another way to live. And this just absolutely flies in the way of any sort of prosperity gospel that God just simply wants me to be rich and happy and healthy all the time. It challenges the idea that God just wants me to be comfortable in my life, and maybe even that God wants me to be healed and whole all the time, because maybe God is trying to teach us something in the middle of it, that we might teach the people around us the same thing. So as we said, Hosea is about to feel the pain and humiliation and rejection that God feels from his people, and then he's to go and pay a price that he could win his wife back again. And this theme is just going to permeate this whole series. It's just on full display in these early chapters. What we see here is an unbroken love being offered by a broken heart. It's a picture of God who just refuses. He cannot let his people go, who will not let you go, despite the agonizing heartache that comes with it. God's love just will not let go. It's this beautiful but equally confronting idea. And we just have to sit with this over the next few weeks, because Hosea will not back down from the effects of sin on God's heart. But equally, he will not back down on God's love for his people and to see them restored. One of the wrestles the prophet Ezekiel brings through his book is this idea of God putting this special blessing on this family, that they might take his name to the nations, that others would know who this God is and what he's like by the way this family acts. The difficult part is this family just consistently acts terribly. And what are you supposed to do then? How long can you sit idly while they continue to misrepresent you? How long can you wait while they destroy everything that you've made for them and drive away the very people that you're trying to reach around them? It's one of the key wrestles of the Old Testament. God has made his law for his people, and he's made it as clearly as he can. What does he do when they blatantly and deliberately disregard it? And so a second key image in the book is similar to the discipline of a parent. I'm sure at some point in your life you have been on the receiving end of well-deserved discipline from your parents. And the form and the nature of that will change for each of us. But many of us now are on the other side of this role. It's our role to hand out discipline to those whom we have authority over. I don't know how you feel in the middle of it, but there are times when I find it really difficult. Like, this is your child. Who could find joy in this part of parenting? One strategy we're using at the moment is taking away something that's valuable to them if they've done something that's inappropriate. Maybe they've hit something, or it's someone where you've got to sit out or playtime for some time. If you're rude with me, you might miss out on some screen time. If you've taken food from the cupboard when you're not supposed to, well, maybe you don't get dessert today. But there's this moment, right, when the realization hits them and they realize the consequences of their actions, and then the floods of tears come, and the pleases come, and the I'll do anything's come. And there's a not insignificant part of your heart, right, that just wants to give it to them because you love them, and you want to give good things for them, and you want them to feel happy and safe. But you also need them to understand that this behavior is unacceptable, that they cannot act in this way in the world. And in that moment, you experience the emotions that God is feeling right here with his people in the book of Hosea. But the stakes are just ratcheted up. We're dealing with lives are on the line here. But there's a time when you can warn no more, when because of his own character, he must respond to their behavior. He must be faithful to the covenant that he made with them. And so through Hosea, he gives them the people of Israel a warning through the names of Hosea's children. The first child is called Jezreel. It's a reference to the valley plain between Samaria and Galilee. If you recall the story of King Ahab and Jezebel, who stand alone as some of the worst and most evil royals ever in the history of Israel, Jezreel is where Naboth's vineyard is. You might remember Naboth. King Ahab wanted his vineyard, but Naboth did not want to sell it to him. So Ahab confides this in Jezebel, who demands that he's the king and he should get what he wants. And so she has Naboth taken and stoned and killed on false charges, simply that she could buy it and give it to her husband. Years later, it becomes the site where Jehu comes to confront Jezebel, and the story's in 2 Kings 10 and 11, and it's just incredibly violent. It's just full of blood. And not only does Jehu kill Jezebel, but her 72 sons, and there's 42 brothers, and then the rest of Ahab's family are all slain. And then Jehu lives as if there was no God of Israel and no rules or laws to guide him. It's just an awful story of one of the most bloody times in Israel's history. And this forms a clear warning from God about what is coming for Israel. It's almost as if God is saying to them, if you thought Jezreel was bad then, this new thing that is about to happen, this is what Jezreel will be known for, and it will be so much worse than that. Years later, because it takes a while to have a child, Gomer has a daughter with Hosea, and he calls her Lo Ruhama, not loved. The idea of the paternal and maternal love that a parent would have for their child is just not there anymore. In every way, Israel has acted like it doesn't want or need the love or mercy of God, and so there comes a point where he is preparing to hand them over to what they want. If you don't want to have my love, then you will know what that feels like. It's as if you reached out to me and said, hey, Diz, I need some guidance. I'm really struggling with whatever it is. And so I said, let's go and get coffee. And we sit and we pray. And out of a lot of humility in my own life, I try and offer you some of the lessons that I've learned, often the hard way. And we would pray again and we'd leave. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, we would sit down together and say, how are you going? And then if you said, well, I thought about what you said, but actually I decided I didn't want to do it that way. And so I did it that way. I'd say, okay, well, tell me about how that went. And we would talk and we would pray and wrestle. And maybe you'd ask more wisdom and guidance. And I'd say, okay, well, this is what I think is the next best thing for you to do in light of these decisions that you've made. I think this is a good path. And then we pray and we would leave. And then maybe a month later, I reach out again, and it turns out that still you're just doing completely away from what we thought and agreed in that time. There comes a point where eventually I say, I don't want to meet you for coffee because there's no point in meeting you anymore because you don't listen to what I say. You're not looking for my wisdom and guidance. In the same way, God gets to this place where he says, if you don't want my love, then I will stop giving it to you. Which is a deeply sad and sobering message. Years later, again, Gomer has another child, a son, whom Hosea calls Lo Ami, not my people. It's the ultimate reversal of the covenant. And if you remember Exodus 19, as they sit at the foot of Mount Sinai, God's promise to the people is that out of all the nations, they will be his treasured possession, a kingdom of priests, a holy nations. As he expands upon it in Leviticus, God talks about haleking, wandering with them, just for the sole purpose of being with them. And as he walks among them, he will be their God. and they will be his people. And in a moment here, what is happening is Hosea is undoing all of that. For now, where you once were my people, now no longer. God must respond to his people. He cannot ignore his covenant with them, and he cannot ignore their behavior. For 400 years, they were slaves in Egypt. But the moment that they started getting any form of power, they began to turn and oppress and enslave those who were around them. And in doing so, they represented their God and said, this is what he looks like. And so God brings this heavy, heavy response. But the moment that you sit and wait for the hammer to drop and the ultimate form of justice to come out, there's this it's really jarring to read, especially in our culture. But it's a real feature of Hosea's writing. At the moment you think God is about to bring the ultimate destruction of his people, there's this overflowing and overwhelming grace and love for them. It's in verse 10. Yet the Israelites will be like the sand on the seashore, which cannot be measured or counted. It's playing back into the hope for Abraham and the promise for him. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. And the people of Judah and the people of Israel who've now been apart, they will come together. We're still seeing that in Jesus' day. We talked about it with the Good Samaritan. But here they will come together and they'll put one leader, one king who will come up out of the land. For great will be the day of Jezreel. And so say of your brothers, my people, and of your sisters, my loved one. It's based on this vision of a future hope, of a time in the future when his people will listen to him, where they will listen to God, and where there was this divide between the people. Now they will be together and they will be one people, and they'll come out of the land, they'll sprout like trees out of the land in Jezreel. Not only is it the name from before, and it's trying to redefine and say, actually, this place Jezreel, what it will be known for in the last days is not a place of blood and violence, but a place where God's people are planted. Jezreel means God has sown, God has planted. It's the same idea that God does with Adam, who is planted in the Garden of Eden, this place of peace and harmony, a place where God can walk with his people, where they can sit and talk with him, a place where they will grow and they will listen to him and they will love him and they will follow him. And the children who once represented the failed covenant now will be seen in a new light, and God, they will be his people again. All because this God, who despite the heartache and the desperation and the agony and the pain, his love simply will not let them go. This is what love looks like. Love hurts. But God's love for you and for me, it endures. And his love will not let you go either. We carry this idea in our society that I'm too far gone, that I've messed up so bad that God couldn't possibly welcome me back. We have people tell us about how the building would fall down if they stepped foot inside it. But inside the church, we're just as bad as we sit there caught in sin, trying to cover it up and hide it up so that then I can come and have a quiet time the next day. In the midst of my sin, I couldn't possibly come before God. It's not how it works. I have to go and do something nice first. And what we forget is you don't stop loving your child when they do something wrong. And neither does God. And there isn't a place where his love will not reach you, but that love comes at a price. And that price was the life of his own son, who willingly walked to the cross so that justice and love could meet in the sacrifice of his own life. And in doing so, he claimed that anyone who accepts his offer belongs to him. And if they belong to him, then death can have no claim on their life. You and I have been redeemed. We belong to him now. Not, and this keeps striking me, because we wanted it. Not because I even asked for it. Not because I worked towards it in any way, shape, or form. God did this because God wanted us back. Jesus went to the cross because God wanted you back. And this is how Hosea starts, right? It's good. We're just chapter 1, and I'm just so excited to share this book with you over the next few weeks. I just really encourage you to read it. I get it. It's 11 chapters. It doesn't take very long. It'll be a bit confusing in places. It can be a bit jarring in places, but it'll really help you as we come to work through this book together. But I think there's two things that we need to think about before that point. Two things that I think God is challenging our hearts on at the moment. The first group is for those people that haven't yet experienced or accepted or felt the love that this God has for them. Maybe you hear people talk about it, but you don't know what it feels like. You don't even know where to start. There is opportunity today to open your heart to him, to pray to him and say, God, would you show me your love for me? I found it so deeply encouraging to surround myself with good Christian people and say to them, actually, I just really need to feel God's love in my life, and would you pray for that for me? And to pray together and welcome God's love and God's Spirit to come and rest upon me, to pray a prayer, not just once in my life, not twice, but to allow God space and time for him to continue to show me his love for me. Maybe it's a prayer you need to pray. Maybe it's a coffee that you need to have with someone. For the rest of us, your task is to invite people into this family, to tell those around you of this love that you have received, this love that has changed you, the love that has inspired you, the love that has taught you how to love the people around you. And this love should drive us out, that others would experience this too, that they might become a part of his loved ones, part of his people, a planted people in this kingdom that is both near and yet to come. We want to be a church that celebrates the love of God and celebrates it with the people around us, that reaches out to our community, to our friends, to our family, and to the person that we pass on the street to say, there is chance for you too to experience his love that goes so much beyond what you've done. Love that will not let you go. I don't know which camp you feel like you are in at the moment, which one resonates with you. But let's end our time now with a word of prayer to ask God to fill and to send us. And so, God, we give thanks for your word in the book of Hosea. We thank you for your picture of love. We thank you for the love that we experience in our lives. Would we be known as a people of your love? Would your love so fill our hearts, your spirit rest upon us, a full confidence in our identity as children of the living God. God, pour out your love on us and drive us out, God. Give us courage that we might share your truth with those around us, that we would see people put their trust and hope in you because of the love that they have felt from you. We thank you for our church. We thank you for your Son. We thank you for your presence with us now and always. Amen.